First of all, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who watched my video yesterday. It was a Reddit video where I spoke about the future incarnations of the Doctor and the direction I'd want them to go down. And it's got a lot of views and a lot of positive feedback. And I got this one comment on the video. Now, it's not necessarily a hate comment, and to be fair, to be clear, I am not going to be putting this video out here to be like, everybody hate on this guy. I know it's a traditional thing. I know every YouTuber who calls out a comment is like, don't send hate towards him, but then everyone already does. I'm genuinely not doing this for that, because let me get something straight. I think my morals are all in one place, right? And they're all in a very similar place. But I'm not a preacher. I don't know exactly what I believe on everything. And some of the stuff that this guy said in his comments, I'd never even thought about. And I just found it interesting. So we had a conversation. We disagreed, but we had a conversation. So, like I said, there's no hatred towards this guy. I actually don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's got views that are quite different to mine. So, yeah, please respect that. And if you go and send him hate, I will probably just remove your comment. So, yeah. Big disclaimer, okay? I've just finished recording and I feel like I didn't get this point across well enough early in the video. So, I just want to say, a lot of the points I make aren't directed at this person who left the comments. The points I make come off of the thoughts that I have when having this conversation with this person. So when I point out in a minute that there's a lot of homophobia around when it comes to people saying that Ncuti's more sexualised than other Doctors simply from the fact he's gay, I'm not saying that this person believes that. Whether they do or not, I'm blind to. I have no idea. So, yeah, please be aware that I am not just slating this person down. I'm sharing these comments because they're on a public page on my page, and they made me think about a lot of things that I wouldn't otherwise think about when I had this conversation with this person. So that's why I'm sharing them. That's all. No drama. Yeah, that's it. Cheers. So for just a tiny bit of context before we jump into the comment, I basically said that I think it's cowardly if the producers of Doctor Who go back to like a straight white male Doctor simply because they're worried about ratings and they don't like hatred online. Because, and let me be clear, if there's a straight white male Doctor and they do it for a reason, or I don't know, I don't know how they could do it in a way that would be clear that it's not for that reason, but if they're doing it just because people call the show woke because the Doctor was a gay black man, the actor who played the Doctor was a gay black man, I think that's a bit cowardly. And I took some words from Vera over on Council of Geeks, because I saw a video that she did a couple of days ago about the Disney or the Pixar higher up. And I said that on the video, and this is the comment that this person said. They put, "So, you're evil if you want an asexual male Doctor. That's not evil. Changing the gender of the Doctor and sexualising him is partly why the show has lost so many viewers. It's Doctor Who, not some trashy soap opera." Okay, fair point-ish, right? I feel like, and I'm not pointing out this guy specifically, but I think a lot of people tend to think that Doctor Who is sexualised now, and the undergoing tone for that is because the main lead was a gay black guy. And if you look at the pictures and the promo images, he is quite flamboyant. I won't lie, I'm not going to sit here and be like, he's exactly like David Tennant. He's not, he's a different incarnation. And I think Ncuti Gatwa brought his own personality to the role of the Doctor as well, which I'm not opposed to. And he did a lot of, like, just being flamboyant movements, and, like, you know, the phrase babes, even though I feel like it, you know, people take that a bit too far. I can hear Tom Baker saying babes, you know what I mean? But fine, let's just say, for example, the Ncuti Gatwa was the main guy who says babes. Now, I don't count that as being sexualised. I also don't count the 2005 reboot at all to ever sexualise the Doctor. They have him be in relationships, whether it be platonic or romantic, with Rose and Donna and River Song. And what I'll say about that is, if you're not willing to call that out as being sexual or being sexualised, then I don't think you have any right to call out Ncuti Gatwa for being sexualised. The other argument is, it's always been sexualised since 2005. Rose and the Doctor was sexualising the Doctor. Rose and the Doctor and River Song, Matt Smith especially, you know, that I'm quite the screamer, sexualising. I don't think it's a big deal, but if you're going to call out that as being sexualised, I can understand why you'd think that Ncuti and Rogue could be considered sexualising the Doctor. But if you're not willing to call that out, then I don't think you have any right to say that Ncuti is sexualising the Doctor at all, or like the writing in that era is sexualising the Doctor, because if anything, I think that is way more toned down than the 2005 era. Well, I say 2005 era, like the 2005 series wasn't very sexualised, but from like series 2, Rose and the Doctor, there was something going there, especially series 5 and 6, Matt Smith, with River Song. There was so much like sexual chemistry there. So, like I said, I don't have a problem, and I don't really feel that's sexualising the Doctor. But if you do, then that's fine. I think you can call out Doctor Who for sexualising the Doctor. But if you've continued watching up until now, I don't see why now would be the part where you'd like throw your toys out the pram and be like, Doctor Who's too sexualised now. So that's just the first thing I wanted to say. Again, not targeting at this bloke, it's just a topic of conversation that came from this that I wanted to talk about. So I replied to their comments saying, not at all. I'm all for an asexual male Doctor. My point is that we've had it before, and there are many fans who aren't asexual males, and I think the lead should represent them as well. I also think 2005 Who was borderline a soap opera, which is true. Russell T Davies has written soap operas before he wrote Doctor Who, and I think one of his big intentions when writing 2005, the reboot of Doctor Who, was to make it sort of domestic and soap opera-y. That's why he brings it so down to earth with like Rose's family and the fact she lives on just a council estate and stuff like that. So yeah, I stand by that comment, I really do. So then they reply saying, fair enough in regards to 2005 Who. Don't agree regarding the Doctor. Doctor Who was always for everyone. He doesn't need to be representative of anyone in particular. And I put, he is for everyone. Just because the actor's gay doesn't mean others can't enjoy. And they put, I'm talking about the character, not the actor. And I put, I'll rephrase then. He is for everyone. Just because the character likes men and women doesn't mean others can't enjoy. They then put, that's not the Doctor though. You're reducing him to the level of a human. He's an alien. He's meant to be otherworldly. Right? Facts. Right? Sure. Makes sense. Why can't he be both, is what I said next. Why can't he be both? I think the majority of incarnations come across really alien, even if they have an interest in relationships. Since 1996, the character has been a romantic person, and I'd argue the Doctor has gotten less romantic in recent times. There was one episode where Ncuti expressed his love. His companions were mainly written to be his friends, and this is true. Ncuti Gatwa had a love episode similar to how Captain Jack had a love episode in the first series of Torchwood. And they're basically the same episode if you put them side by side. And the thing I'll say about this is I don't see why now it's becoming a problem. 2005, the Doctor kissed Captain Jack. He kissed him again 2 years later. Like, there's been other stuff. There's been mentions of homosexuality and stuff like that in Doctor Who for years. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say this person likes the revival era. They've actually said a lot going against the revival era from 2005 of Doctor Who, and their profile picture is a picture of Sylvester McCoy. So that suggests to me they're probably more of a classic fan than a modern day fan. So I'm not going to make assumptions and be like, they were fine with it then, why aren't they fine with it now? But their original comment did state that if you don't want an asexual male Doctor, you're evil, and that we shouldn't sexualise the Doctor. Which, again, I don't think is meaning, like, they're against a gay actor playing the Doctor. I think it means they're just against the Doctor as a whole being involved in a relationship, which I can completely understand. I personally quite enjoy the Doctor being in a relationship and being in love. One of my favourite episodes from the whole Ncuti Gatwa era was Rogue. Rose, blimey. I liked Rogue, and I was really intrigued to see if he would come back and the Doctor's relationship with him would get explored more. Sadly, I don't think that's going to happen anymore, for obvious reasons, but yeah. This person then goes on to say, I disagree. It's only in New Who that he's being romantic. The Eighth Doctor kissing Grace was explained as a way of getting his memory back. He was meant to be Brian-esque in his looks, etc., but in terms of Grace being attracted to him, it wasn't reciprocated. The romance post-2005 was brought in just to add a soap element to the show. There was no read onto it. After all his travels in time and space, he suddenly becomes interested in romance. It doesn't wash, and it humanises him. There's also something a little strange about a 2,000-year-old Doctor lusting after a young human female. Yeah, that I can agree with. Again, I want to keep just emphasising, in case this person sees this video, I'm not having a go at you. I'm genuinely just intrigued by this conversation we had, and I want to dissect it on here. I do agree. The Doctor, the 2,000-year-old Doctor, or even 1,000-year-old Doctor at the beginning, lusting after 19-year-old Rose Tyler is bloody weird, right? But we have established that the Time Lords have a different way of aging, where, like, the Doctor would look at Courtney Woods, for example, and be like, what, you're like 85? And she's like 15. So I think it is established that they do... The Doctor technically is, like, in 2005 with Christopher Eccleston, I think he is, like, 40 in human years. I think it translates like dog years, because you can't look at Courtney Woods and think she's 85 unless your species have a different way of aging, in terms of you just age so much slower over such a more long period of time. So I think technically, but even 40 and 19 is a bit like, But I don't think that's too bad. I think on paper it's worse than if you actually think about it. So I can get behind that. I do think if you're going to write off the 8th Doctor kissing Grace to get his memories back being like a thing that doesn't count, you can also write off the 9th Doctor and Rose kissing at the end of the Series 1 finale, because he did that to take the bad wolf out of her. And then he regenerated. So spoilers. So yeah, I think, you have to look at both there, but I do agree with you. I think you raised some fair points here. I then say, sure, I can see your points for 2005, 2015, but I'd say in the last decade the romance has turned down a lot. The only person Ncuti fell in love with was not human. I'm not even going to count Jodie and Yaz, because there was no chemistry there, and it was and the Chibnall fisted in some queer baiting for the final few specials, which I completely stand by. There was zero chemistry between Yaz and the Doctor up until the final few specials of Jodie Whittaker's run. And if anything, it looked like Yaz was going to go off with Ryan. That's what they were building to in Series 11, at least, is what it felt like to me and a lot of other people. So I didn't buy that love. And if you're going to, say that the Doctor falls in love with someone who's way younger than him, that's weird and fine and like a human, but a bit odd. But he fell in love with Rogue, who, as far as I'm aware, isn't human. I didn't actually fact check this, so that might be an invalid point, but yeah. Then this person replies saying, I do not include Rogue because the Doctor didn't have relations with anyone, human or alien. He also ran off and left Ruby in danger to be with Rogue, which was way out of character. Yaz and the Doctor was just plain terrible. The point is, the Doctor was always unique among the heroes on our TV screens. He dressed in an old-fashioned way. He wasn't interested in human concepts of love or romance. He didn't want to settle down. He was an explorer. That's what set him apart. Nowadays, there's precious little of what. Rewind. Nowadays, there's precious little of that left. He could be anyone, but he's not the Doctor. Ooh. I think it's perfectly valid to say that you include Rogue in the fact that the Doctor fell in love, because the Doctor never fell in love in classic era. I understand that's what you're trying to say. I don't think he ran off with Rogue and left Ruby in danger. He didn't know there was danger there. He thought Rogue was the danger. So when he went off with Rogue, he was there to learn more about the danger that he thought Rogue was. He didn't know that there was danger at the party that he left Ruby at. He left Ruby with a nice girl who turned out to be evil, but the Doctor had no way of knowing that. So I don't think he left her in danger to go and snog some bloke. I don't think that's the case at all. But fine. Yaz and the Doctor being terrible, I agree with you with. I do agree with what you're saying about the classic era. So going back to what I said earlier, I think this person is very much a classic defender and not a big fan of the way the Doctor is characterised in New Who, which is less against what I was saying earlier about the homophobia of the new Doctor being more sexualised than 2005. Again, that wasn't directed at this person. That was just a point that I made separately to get a title and thumbnail. Yeah, I miss the Doctor being a bit of a goofball, being a little bit of a weirdo, like Tom Baker dressing with the scarf and the long coat. No one dressed like that. No one dressed like that. And so he was a bit of a weirdo because he was an alien. And I do miss that characterisation a bit. But what I will say is just things move on. And unfortunately for you, it's taking the Doctor in a way that you aren't a fan of. There are certain things from early days in the show that I am a big fan of that aren't around anymore. For example, chats in the TARDIS. I've always been a massive fan of just having a chat for 2 minutes at the start of an episode and 2 minutes at the end of an episode in the TARDIS from the 2005 era. That died off recently. It died off in RTD2. And I'm sad that that's gone. And yeah, what I'll say is we shouldn't dwell. In canon, this is the Doctor. And people grow and change, so maybe the Doctor's just grown and changed. Yeah, there you go. One tiny little thing I forgot to mention as well. This person, I don't know whether they deleted their comment because it doesn't show up in this thread here on my YouTube studio page. I have to actually go to the YouTube comments, where this person said, I should also point out that I think Eccleston was a miscast and a terrible incarnation of the Doctor. Now, I haven't replied from here on in because I feel like this is just going to turn hostile and I don't want that. I disagree completely. He's one of my favourites. I think he's the perfect Doctor. Him and Capaldi are the perfect Doctors in my head, from the modern era anyway. I'm a big John Pertwee fan from the classic era. But I find it mad. And that was just tagged on at the end. I don't know if that was a little dig to try and trigger me or something, but whether it was or not, it's irrelevant. I'm not that bothered. But yeah, I find that weird that they've just tagged that onto the end for no reason. But interesting. If you're watching this video, the person who commented this, and you want to elaborate on that in the comments, let me know. You might get a hate mob coming at you because loads of people love the Ninth Doctor, but I'm intrigued. That's all I have to say on this situation, but it doesn't matter what I have to say. Ultimately, what do you have to say? Let me know in the comments, do you think Doctor Who's always been sexualised? Do you think it's never been sexualised? And what do you think about the character change of the Doctor from classic Who to modern Who? Let me know in the comments, please. If you did enjoy, leave a like, thumbs up. No, same thing. Subscribe if you enjoy what you see. If you like what you see and you want to see more of it, hit the notification bell. You get notified every single time I post. There's a hype button near the comments. If you push that, pushes my video out to loads more people. If you want to help me out in a monetary way, you can become a channel member. You get access to member-only videos, and you get a shout out at the end of every video. Alongside, if you want to become if you want to leave a super thanks in the comments, you get a shout out at the end of the next video for a little less money. But you don't have to do any of it. You could just go back to eating chips and watching telly and going to bed. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day. I've been Sam. I'll see you later, and ta-ra.